Hey everybody, welcome into this week's episode of Tony's Spot On Fishing. I'm your host, Tony Krizek, and today we're going to get a little weird out on the ice. We're trying something we've never actually personally done before. We are going to attempt carp through the ice. Now, a lot of people think of carp as your big-time summertime fish here in the Chicagoland area, but they still have to eat as well under the ice. So we are here at Waubonsie Lake in Aurora, Illinois, trying something for the very first time. We got tip up set, we got a dead stick rod set out for the carp. We're gonna see if we can get one of these golden submarines to hit through the ice today for you. Also, we'll be jigging up some panfish and maybe even a bass or two. There's bluegills, crappies, there's largemouth and smallmouth bass here in Waubonsie, as well as catfish, and you never know, we might get the carp on that jig rod too. So stick around, we got an action-packed show for you. That's all this week on Tony's Spot On Fishing. So what we have here for our setups, because I have my cameraman with me, we're actually going to utilize his 2 lines, because here in Illinois, it's 2 lines in the water per person. So this is how we're actually setting this up. My cameraman with me, so 2 of these tip-ups are essentially my cameraman's on the setup here. So this first tip-up that we have set here, we're actually in about 7 feet of water. Now, with our tip-ups, what we'll do, we run a real long leader line. Carp here are very line shy. We've had a couple guys that are into the more European style carp fishing come out here with me in the summer months, running 14, 17, and 20 pound tests, can't get a bite. 6 and 8 pound will get bites all day long. So we're actually running about a 6 or 7 foot leader of 8 foot P-line CX. It's a fluorocarbon coated mono, so it's very low visibility in the low vis green color. And we're just having a little split shot and a hook. We chummed the hole with corn. We put some corn down, and then I actually took and made a little bit of a corn mixture, seasoned it up with water. We used actual water, tons of sugar, and a little bit of vanilla to make it even a little sweeter. Carp love the sweet stuff. So that's the bait amongst a little pile of corn that we chummed down this hole. So we actually run it so that setup is on the bottom, and we got about a foot or so of slack as well in the setup. So this first tip up, we're going to put off of a main flat, the deeper edge of the channel, 7 feet of water on the bottom. Now, just off of this tip up here, we've actually come in a little bit closer to shore, and I've done what we call a dead stick rod. And it's actually a heavier, medium heavy action rod. Put a little larger reel so we have the line capacity to it. Spooled up with P-line CX 8 pound, low vis green. And we're actually running basically what I'd actually run out here in the summertime for the carp. Just a split shot and a leader line, maybe about a foot or 2 behind the hook is your split shot, and then the hook itself. Same thing, we chum some regular corn down this hole, and then we're baiting with that special corn mixture. Now this rod is sitting in a rod holder. It's got plenty of slack line to it, so when a carp comes by and grabs it, if he starts to take off, he's got plenty of line to do that with. My drag is backed almost all the way off, so I'll actually hear that reel start screaming when a carp picks this one up, and I'll know to run to my jig rod and grab it. This one is in about 6 feet of water, coming in a little bit shallower. Now this tip up, we've gone and we've actually placed a little bit shallower still. We're in about 5 feet of water on this one, more towards their summertime haunts when they're up aggressively feeding. So basically, in this particular body of water, there's really not much deeper than about 7 feet. You may find one spot around 8 or so, as that main channel that runs through Waubonsie may get you to that 8 foot mark or so, but it's only in certain areas. 7 seems to be about the max out here. So we've covered the deeper edge in 7 feet with that first tip up. The jig rod is sitting in 6 feet, and then this tip up here we're putting in at 5 feet of water. And this will give us a pretty good balance. We've got our spread covered, so if they're up feeding shallow, mid-depth, or at the deepest edge, we have baits on them. And we basically just set up a diamond pattern here. because I'll actually be jigging behind where my cameraman is set up right now to see if we can get a few bass and bluegills going. But we got a good spread, good coverage to find these carp. And again, long leader line on the tip up, about 7 feet of that P-Line CX 8-pound low vis green, same setup, small hook, split shot, and the sweetened corn. And as well, we also did chum this hole before. So we are going to let these soak for a good long while. Hopefully we'll get some action, we'll get a flag going, or we'll see that dead stick rod jump, and we'll be able to show you some golden submarines through the ice. I mean, the thing about the Chicagoland area, let's face it, we got all our panfish species. We can go downtown for perch. Maybe we can even jig up some browns and steelhead through the ice. The chain, we can do walleyes and pike, and same with some of the southern Wisconsin waters. But locally around here, bass and panfish seem to be about it through the ice. This gives us one other option, one other species we can target. And let me tell you, out here at Waubonsie, they get big. We have found them up to 20 pounds. If we do stick a 20-pounder, it's going to be interesting getting them through this hole. But there's carp anywhere from just a couple pounds all the way up to that 20-pound mark up here. And this just gives you guys another option, another species that you can fish through the ice. And you'll see, you can have a setup set like this as well as catching panfish and bass on another rod as well. So always keep your options open, and it's always fun to tangle with these big fish. Let's go get some fish. Yeah. Missed them. Come on. There we go. Got you that time, you little potato chip. Huh. That's a real little tiny bluegill right there. Go ahead, get him back. Now my jig hole, where I'm jigging right now, we're set up in about 6.5 feet or so in depth. And that one there actually came about, maybe about 2 feet off the bottom. Because what we're doing, drop it right on back down here. Oops. And follow that jig all the way to the bottom, just like so. So we still got the slack there, tighten it up. So basically the base of the ice is bottom. So I came up about 1.5 feet off the bottom there. And there's like I say, there's bluegills, bass, there's largemouth and smallmouth out here in Waubonsie. Crappies as well. There's channel cats, the carp. Now this particular body of water also does connect to the Fox River. There's actually first of all, to the north, there's actually like a little chain of lakes here in Aurora. There's Little Spring rather, Spring Lake, and then a creek that comes on down here to Waubonsie. Well, on the back end here, there's another creek, and it's actually called Waubonsie Creek. And Waubonsie Creek flows out of here, and it'll actually flow down to Oswego. And it empties out into the Fox River right at the park in downtown Oswego. So under high water situations, if those fish leave Oswego from the Fox River and come up Waubonsie Creek, and essentially the water's high, they can come over the dam here. God only knows really what could be out here. There could actually be a muskie that has made his way in here. We've seen some shad that have come out of the river that have made their way in. And probably an influx of the more smallies coming through from the creek. So it is fed by the river at times under high water circumstances. So excellent little fishery. And you know what we're doing right now, like I say, we're trying to get some of these carp to go. But while we're doing that, we can actually sit here and jig, and we'll find out exactly what we'll catch today. because it can literally be a mixed bag of a little bit of everything out here. And literally right in the middle of Aurora, Illinois. We're not far from a lot of things. You got all the other little lakes here. There's a nice park here. You can come in the summertime if you want to jog and bring the kids. There's a big party deck here as well. Excellent little facility. Running water in the bathrooms here. Excellent place to come out, have a picnic, take the kids fishing. And like I said, just a phenomenal fishery right here in our own backyards. There we go. A little better gill there. Right in the corner of the mouth. Pretty little guys. Come back. Hey, get in that hole. The jig that I'm actually running today, what I'm using again, this is one of my favorite little ice jigs. It's from Custom Jigs and Spins, the little demon. It's that purple with the white eye. It's got the silver back to it. Just tipping him with a single waxy. Just nose hook that wax worm so we get that good tail movement when we're jigging. I'll tell you, I got a whole box of ice jigs. But this little purple demon of mine, especially on all the lakes around here, we just do so well with it. Rat finkies are another good one. The shrimpos we've done very well with. But usually those darker colors on a lot of these little lakes around here, we've always done better with purples, straight blacks. But it's tough to beat the Custom Jigs and Spin baits. Like I say, demons, gill pills, rat finkies, of course, excellent baits. If you guys are coming out and jigging, definitely looking to get in a few of those, and you can tip them with either a waxworm or a spike, and you'll catch tons of fish out here. Any of the forest preserve lakes, or even if you guys are fishing gills up on the chain, the backwater channels and stuff. Excellent baits, Custom Jigs and Spins for ice fishing. Another little bluegill. Boy, that one, it kind of has some cool colorings to it. It has a little more purple here. Not really getting the orange breast like some of them will start getting. It's kind of interesting to see how they'll, actually it kind of looks like he's been chewed on a little bit right there. Probably escaped the jaws of a bass. His scales are a little messed up right in this area. Goes to show you there's some bigger bass out here, and even some of those catfish might have tried for them too. I'll tell you what, let's take a little break here. What we're going to do is we're going to walk over to the tip-ups and the jig rods, because we are using the corn for the carp. And what we want to make sure at this point, because the bluegills will feed on that, we're going to show you, we're going to walk over and just make sure our bait's still there. Everything is still good. So this way we're not fishing empty lines and we didn't lose our corn to any of those little bait stealers and the bluegills. Let's take a look at this guy. Make sure everything's still there, and it sure is. And you can see I'm running that real long mono leader line to it. And we'll just go ahead, place it right back down. That whole setup there is going to sit on the bottom. And the key to that is that long mono leader. We don't want that tip-up line showing too much. Because like I say, in the summertime these fish get so line shy out here. We definitely want to have enough invisibility or stealth, if you will, while we're doing this. The old dead stick's doing here. Dead stick is still baited up pretty good. So we'll go ahead, send him right on back down. Plenty of slack there. Like I say, we got that drag nice and loose. And that one is golden as well. So we still got our baits. We'll send these guys right on back down. You don't want to check them too frequently because these carp, like I say, they are pretty spooky. So you don't want to be constantly lifting it up and down and moving it to create a lot of ruckus. You don't want to be walking around too much on the ice as well, making noise. So the key is to try to be as quiet as you can and just leave them soak. You know, it's not going to be a fast and furious type bite. You know, they're definitely a warm water fish, but they will eat through the ice. And having a setup like this where we can cover a large flat and be in 3 different water levels gives us our best shot at coming in contact with one of them. What we're doing, we're actually kind of having to work for our bites here. Basically, the one thing, they want a little bit of movement, keeping it suspended up off the bottom. Like I say, just about a foot and a half at the most. When we start, you know, if you guys are coming out here and you don't have the electronics, if you don't have a flasher unit or even a portable LCD unit or AquaView camera, anything like that, you know, when you guys are out, always start near the bottom first. You know, so basically we're on bottom, come up just a few inches and start working your way up. Jig a little bit. Pause. We can give that rod a couple more shakes. Pause it. And then just keep slowly working your way up in the water column. It's always best, I found, to start deep and work your way up on those fish. You know, it's not as... You don't ever want to really jig up and then work your way down. Always start at the bottom and come up. And basically, wherever you get your bites, kind of make a mental note of that. Right now, our bites have been coming about a foot to a foot and a half up off the bottom. And what these fish tend to do, your panfish and your bass species as well, it's a little bit of a warm-up today in comparison to what we've had these last couple days. Last few days we've had upper 20s, mid-20s for highs. And today we've actually, well, they're forecasting about 35. I think we're maybe sitting right at 32. So it's a little bit warmer. And we do have some snowfall coming in. We're supposed to get another little snow spat tomorrow or the next day. So again, under the ice, just like in open water, these fish will be reacting to it. And that's another good reason we can come up, fish these flats a little bit shallower, and these are going to be our more aggressive fish up on these flats. They're feeding. And basically, they're just going around and they're searching and they're looking for food. Now, if we weren't so interested in getting a carp to go today, what I probably would do is have about 4 or 5 holes punched and basically all across the flat, and we'd just walk back and forth and we'd jig those holes, and we'd start, you know, anywhere from 5, stop at 6 foot, 7 foot, and work this whole area. But I don't really want to be moving around too much or making a lot of noise, punching any extra holes right now, because like I say, we do want to try to get one of those carp to go for you. And anytime you start making a lot of noise, they're real spooky, even under the ice. So we're just limiting ourselves to this one hole. But that's why at times we'll kind of get into a little flurry of them. We'll catch, you know, a few fish. We'll have some bites and misses. And that's just because these fish are up on these flats and they're just cruising looking for food. So the best way, if you guys want to do nothing but just come out and jig for these fish, you can actually just come out, punch about 5 or 6 holes across the flat and work your way all over the flat and just intercept fish as you go. You catch a fish or two here, move to your next one, move to the next one, and probably separate them, you know, the holes by 10, 20 yards apiece and just work that whole area. But like I said, we're not going to really do that right now because we are trying to get these carp to go. So we really don't want to be doing any excess walking. There we go. any excess walking or, oh, this one's got a little shoulders to it. There we go, a little nicer gill. Right in the top of the mouth. Pretty little guy. They're all pretty. But like I say, we don't want to do any extra punching of the holes or anything like that, or any extra walking more so than we have to. We just want to try to be as quiet as we can be for those carp. So we'll kind of take the flurries when they come as far as the fish go. Now you can come out here too on Waubonsie, and if you want to do your tip-ups and actually run some minnows, we do very well on the bass out here, you know, strictly when we're just targeting the largemouth and the smallies as well. But set minnows on your tip-ups. You can even use a whole crawler or a half a crawler as well. We've been able to contact smallies that way through the ice out here on a tip-up. So there's a lot of options when you come to this particular body of water. And realistically, the only thing you really want to kind of watch for as far as any kind of safety issues out here, there's two main spots. One is actually one we're fairly close to, and that's a little pipe that is actually pushing water through. It's kind of what comes off the roadways and through the subdivisions around Waubonsie. That'll be a little bit thinner ice. And then also near the dam, just past the pavilion there, where there's going to be a little more current. You don't want to be walking on that ice. That ice can get a little sketchy on you. So that'll just give you, a couple areas to avoid out here to make sure you guys stay safe. But as always, ice conditions in Chicago change, it seems, in a blink of an eye. So always bring a spud bar, test the ice, make your punch and test holes as you're walking out, and just make sure you got a good amount of safe ice. We don't want anybody falling through the ice or having to utilize ropes and ice picks to get yourself out. That's definitely a situation you don't want to find yourself in. Go. Got that one. All right. A little better bluegill there. Right in the top of the mouth. Got that pretty gold coloring to him on that one. Beautiful little fish. One other trick that I did there is I actually added a little gulp maggot to it. These bites were getting a little lighter, and having that gulp gives just a little bit of extra scent off in the water, and it'll help get you a few more bites, especially turn some of those real less aggressive fish and get them to eat. And it seems if you're noticing you're getting a lot of light bites, or you were missing a lot of fish like I've been missing them today on just a waxworm, then we can go ahead and tip it with that Gulp Alive spike or Gulp Alive maggot. And it's a biodegradable material, so it'll give you a little extra scent and a little extra flavor. There we go. And, oh, what do we got here? Oh, you were just a little bit bigger and full of spunk. Like I say, that bite gets light like that, we can run that setup. Actually, that guy stole my gulp, so I'm going to put another one of those on. And you can get them in various colors too, and I've always just ran the standard white. Just having that little extra scent sometimes, little extra flavor, can get those lighter biters into being a little more aggressive. That wind is sure picking up out here right now. There's definitely another little front that's going to be coming through tomorrow. And that's probably got these fish a little bit sluggish right now. And that's why I say a lot of times we can add that little extra something to our presentation like that. And we can play around too. You know, you can switch from a waxworm down to an actual spike. And even change the size of your jigs. Sometimes we'll have to go to a real small, teeny rat finky. And that's another thing we've definitely found out. Not only, you know, certain jigs like a demon or the gill pills, you know, they tend to be more vertical, where a rat finky or a ratso will be horizontal presentation. Sometimes just those little subtle differences can make all the difference in the world. So just as in open water, we got to be versatile. We were getting a lot of light bites with just a waxy. Put on that gulp. Whoops. Oh, I missed that one. Did he get my waxy? He sure did. And one thing too you guys might notice is I'm holding my rod a little bit differently than usual. And this is actually what is nicknamed the pencil grip. And basically it's just like when you're grabbing a pen or a pencil, and we'll hold our rod that same way. And what's nice is when we're having to fish a little slower, or we need one on our pauses to make sure our hand's a little more steady. If you do a conventional grip, like so, you know, you might get a little too much movement in your rod tip. Your wrist, you know, you may tend to flex your wrist or move it all. This, when we pencil grip it, we can get a little bit more stability. And if we just want to shake the rod tip, we can just get a little nice shake going. It's a little bit tougher when you're grabbing an ice rod in a conventional grip to get just that little shimmy. And sometimes that little shimmy is what they really want. It's just nice, another little trick for you guys. Try out that pencil grip. Get a little bit different action on your jigs. Ooh. Still got my waxworm there. Come on. Don't give me just one thump. There we go. Whoa. Boy, that one sucked it in. My goodness. Nice. Little bluegill. Get me another waxworm here. Here we go. Oh yeah. Another nice little gill. Beautiful colorings. Well, you can definitely see that Waubonsie can produce some fish for you. You know, there's just so many different species out here and different ways we can fish them. And it's so close to home. That's the best part about this. You know, if you guys get out of work, got a couple hours to kill before dinner time, come on out here. Give it a shot. You know, set up some rods or tip-ups for the carp. Heck, you could even grab some minnows, some medium roaches or baby roaches or those large fatheads, and set those up on a tip-up. You know, you can get some of the largemouth or the smallmouth to go. Even take a Swedish pimple with a minnow and jig around if you just want to strictly catch bass. Get a tub of waxworms or the spikes and get a little light action ice rod like we got here, and We can have some fun with the panfish. So a lot of variety and a lot of different things we can do out here. Just unbelievable the job the Park District's done with this place. And doesn't get a lot of fishing pressure either. Whoops. We can come out here in the, wow, that one was aggressive. He took everything, took my gulp and my waxy. We can come out here in the summer months, or in the spring rather. We get a real good red eye shad bite on the bass. The summer months, we can fish soft plastics, Cincos, and wacky worm and things like that. It will get a little weed choked in the summer. And if you guys like frog fishing, this is a cool little lake to come out here and just fish a frog. So really, it is such a cool little fishery. What we had just now, this is the second time this has actually happened today. The very first time this happened was actually when we were first setting up, before our cameras even got rolling. We do have a small clip of the aftermath of what had happened. But what happened is this. What we call in the open water period, and we'll see our line just kind of shoot, or we'll see our rods bounce when we're carp fishing. And a lot of times as those carp, as they're milling around, as they're kicking up stuff off the bottom feeding, they'll actually bump the line with their bodies or their tail, and we get like a tail slap. And that was the second time now on this dead stick that we've had it, where you see that rod just donk, real fast like that. And it's not really a bite, but they're definitely milling around. We don't want to get right up on top of it and walk on top of it and spook them off, but we know now that we have some carp in the area, and they're milling around, and we just got to wait them out and try to get one to eat now. We have reloaded. We fished probably a good solid 2.5 hours or so, maybe closer to 3, and we went ahead and we re-chummed the holes just to get a little more scent down there. We actually ended up using, this time around, what we're using for bait, which is that mixture with the sugar, a tremendous amount of sugar, and a little bit of vanilla extract as well to give it an extra sweetness. Some of the juice in the corn we dump down each individual hole. Again, these fish, they come in off the scent, and you don't want to over chum them either, because if you put too much down there, you can actually get these fish to fill up just on the chum itself. So we don't want that. So very small amounts. Basically, we had 3 holes, so we divided 1 can into thirds and put a third down each hole. Did the same thing with the scented corn, the sweetened corn that we made up as well. So you never want to over chum them either, but you also want to make sure that you keep enough in there, because the little bluegills will come by and pick up some of the corn, and you may even have a carp or 2 come by and suck a few pieces up, but they just didn't grab our baits that actually have hooks in them. So we're going to keep a closer eye on that jig rod, and even on our tip-ups, now that we know we got another carp in the area. He's kind of milling around. Sometimes when they bump that line, if they're real skittish, that might be the end of it. He might have taken off and went, no, this just isn't right. But usually he'll come back. He can't resist it because there's the food here. So sometimes it just keep your eyes open. Unfortunately, we really can't see when stuff like that happens with the tip-ups. But at least with that dead stick rod like that, we know when one's in the area, we can see that movement. So we know they're around. We just got to wait them out. Come on. There we go. Nice gill there. That's probably the best one of the day. Whoops. Beautiful little gill right there. And that's just one other option that you guys can do when that bite starts to slow down, is we can actually dead stick. And as you saw, I was basically just sitting right next to my rod, had it on the ice itself. This way there was absolutely no movement to it. And sometimes when the bite starts getting real finicky, that dead stick option is a real good choice. And right now that temperature's starting to drop, the wind is picking up, it's actually getting kind of nasty out here. And likewise, the fish are reacting the same way as this cold front is starting to push in. So sometimes you got to keep changing it up through the ice, just like we do in an open water circumstance. Well, hey everybody, that's about all the time we have for this week. We hope you enjoyed this week's episode, showing you another little body of water close to home here in Aurora, Lake Waubonsie. Beautiful little lake here in Aurora. I'll tell you what, come on out. Whether you're pan fishing or trying for the carp like we were today. We were unsuccessful on getting one hooked up for you, but we did have a couple run-ins on our dead stick rod here. Can't really tell if we had them on the tip-ups or not, but the carp were definitely here. They're milling around, temps dropping, a big cold front's pushing through, in a species that generally doesn't like the cold to begin with. It makes for a pretty rough day when you're chasing them. But it was pretty cool just to know that we had a couple contacts with them. Still caught plenty of panfish out here, and that's another thing we were happy we could show you, is that as the bite changes, as those fish get more finicky, like they were today on this cold front, you can use these techniques we showed you to get these panfish to eat, no matter what body of water you're fishing. And as far as the carp go, even if you guys want to play up with some different combinations on sauces and things to flavor your corn up for the carp, also dough balls work very well. You could take some Frosted Flakes, mush them up, add a little more sugar to it, water as well. If possible, use the water from the body of water you're going to be fishing always. You never want to use tap water, even when you're making up some syrups for your corn as well. Once again, everybody, my name's Tony Krizak. Come on out here to Lake Waubonsie in Aurora. You'll be glad you did. Great fishery. This is all the time we got for this week. We can't wait to see everybody right back here next week on Tony's Spot On Fishing.